Welcome to Peak, Train Like a Girl, a podcast by girls in sport, for girls and coaches in sport. We're here to amplify your voice. It deserves to be heard. At Peak, we are a safe place for girls to hang out, learn, grow, and build community. We empower girls in sport and coaches with knowledge, resources, and support we think is necessary in today's athletic environment to thrive. Join us for bold conversations about girls in sport. Our discussions will make you laugh, cry, cheer, get frustrated, and hopefully rethink the future of girls in sport for generations to come. So whether you're walking, commuting, or cleaning your bedroom, take us with you. Follow us. Give us a 5-star rating. It's the only thing we'll ever ask of you, and it helps more than you can possibly imagine. And make sure you share with a female athlete or coach you love. Now, I'm super excited to introduce you to our next guest, Danielle. I actually met Danielle through another friend and also runner of a high-performing athlete. And I was looking for some resources to refer clients to that worked in the mental health industry and was a clinician and helped athletes manage and navigate their way through anxiety or even more concerning issues that they're dealing with. And I will tell you, the minute I got on the phone with Danielle, I knew that she and I would develop a lifelong relationship. I did.
I was the person with finding out.
Clicked. Yeah. And I was like super excited not only to know her and what she was doing, but super excited to start weaving her expertise and her talents and her passions into what I also love, which is helping female athletes thrive. So Danielle, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anne-Marie. And I could not agree more. Our energy was just so ignited and infectious together. I felt the instant connection. So thank you for having me on.
We're so glad you're here. You ready to get warmed up?
I am.
Nice. All right. Sunrise or sunset?
Goodness, this is hard. I love them both. I think sunrise. So I get sad when the sun is actually gone.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that the reasoning behind it. Caitlin, I've never asked you that. Sunrise or sunset?
I don't know why, but something about the sunrise is just so special to me. I don't know. It's always a special feeling. So I love them both, but I don't think anything is better than starting the day with the sunrise.
I think we're all in agreement there. So we're going to go with sunrise. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Danielle, iced or hot coffee?
Oh, hot, all the time.
All right. I'm kind of the same. Do you prefer to make it at home or go to a coffee shop?
My go-to is not coffee, but matcha. So if anyone knows me, I have a tea on me. I have a tea right now, matcha, all day long, every day of the year. And it doesn't matter if it's 95 degrees out, it will be hot.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to be trying mushroom coffee. So I'll fill you in on what I think of that.
Love that.
All right. Well, I can't wait to taste it. All right. Movie or Netflix series?
I think Netflix series. I do.
Are you currently watching anything?
Oh my gosh. We just finished Adolescence. It's sad. So
it is. It's a good watch, though.
Yeah. It's deep. It's not for a feel-good night.
Yeah. So I'm curious now. See, this is supposed to be a warm-up. Now we're getting into the hard-hitting questions. Do you think it's something that a high school age student should watch with a caretaker, or do you think it's something they can digest on their own?
I'm thinking about my own daughter, who's only 6, but if she was a teenager right now, I would prefer her to watch it with me or my husband so that we can have honest dialogue and unpack the concepts. I don't think I would feel comfortable her watching it as a teenager on her own without digesting it with someone whose, brain is past, age 26.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm with you on that one too. All right, let's get a little more light and fluffy. 4-star hotel or camping?
Oh my gosh, I love hotels. I think 4-star hotel. I'm a hotel
All
baby.
Right. There's nothing wrong with a good 4-star hotel. That's awesome. Well, thank you for being here on a busy Friday. I know you and your colleagues have other things you need to be at today, so we appreciate your time and energy. Let's get started. And why don't you fill us in on your story and connection to being a girl in sport?
Oh my goodness, we only have so much time, right? I'll try to give
Podcast is 40 minutes.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it real streamlined. So I ran in the Chicagoland area at Barrington High School, and I ran for two of, in my opinion, some of the greatest female coaches I've ever heard of, had the chance to know. And they really not only helped develop me into an athlete who can reach high potential, but they really changed my life as a person and helped me dig deeper into navigating the relationship with my thoughts and the relationship with my mind body connection. And that is not what I thought I would sign up for when I joined track, which later then morphed into cross country. So that's really where I started. Is they were two of my most profound female role models. They still are to this day. I'm very close with them. They're some of my best friends. And so from there, I fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with competing and seeing what my body can do. I fell in love with, that sense of identity it provided to part of my life and my connection to, those around me. And then when I went to college, I continued to, athletic or compete collegiately. I didn't have as great of an experience. And, we are definitely responsible for our own actions and how we play a part in all relationships. But I think the dynamic of me having a male coach that didn't seem as clued in to the needs of female runners, I didn't realize it at the time, but I think that was what really had me feeling separated and feeling alone and feeling disjointed from giving my all and feeling supported. And I know I'm speaking for myself, but I'm definitely speaking on behalf of a lot of my teammates at the time. So it wasn't until after college, when I graduated college, I did not have a great relationship with exercise or myself as an athlete. I just was I was left with a really bad taste in my mouth for years. And it wasn't until years later I ended up, going to grad school. I became a clinical therapist, and I started to realize, like, hold on, there was so much of a psychological connection to, when we get injured, why it's so hard to come back, why, recovery from injury is tough, why, connection with your coach matters and your teammates. And so I started to dive a little deeper, and I started getting a lot of referrals from word of mouth of athletes to come see me clinically. And that's when I realized, holy cow, I think the power of what I went through, seeing the best of the best, and then seeing a not so great culture had me see both, the whole spectrum of like what you can experience as an athlete. And I was like, I don't want to like really squander this experience. I want to make sure that my experience wasn't wasted. And now I'm helping athletes develop, the tools and the navigation system to see where they want to go, whether it's they want to go on and do, collegiate athletics, or they just want to end with a really great sense of self after their high school career, or Olympic hopefuls, right? Like understanding what that road looks like and how we can still maintain strong in our identity. So for me, it just seemed like it was always going to be the path, but you don't notice that it's there till you get there. Yeah. But looking back, it was like, this felt all really meant to be.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. And I think I want to start with, I love that you talk about you being able to sit back and see the difference between a good culture. And I think culture is one of the most overused words in athletics, maybe in corporate America also, but that's not I don't know enough about corporate America to speak intelligently, but one of the most overused words when it comes to athletics. And so what I went and did this year was I went and defined the word culture. And so culture is the product of relationship. And that was Randall Stutman, better leaders make better people. So culture for us is defined by, we're a product of our relationships, coach to athlete, athlete to athlete, coach and athlete to community, and that stuff all matters. So here's the question. You talked about a powerful culture in high school with two female coaches who I think I actually know who they are. And they've been around forever. And they not only have a good culture, but they also have a winning program, and both things can happen, by the way. And then a culture that wasn't as positive, and I happen to have known what that culture is also. And you're right, the athletes that ran with you would agree. Here's the question I want to ask, but neither is good. I mean, a bad culture either in high school or college is not good. But do you think because you had this safety net in high school, it allowed you to be safer in college and environment? I'm wondering what happens to an athlete who doesn't have a good culture in high school. That's, I guess, my question.
What do you think about this? I think what I reflected on is that I expected, I guess, when you go to college and you're, ponying up to be a college athlete, that it feels more serious, more almost professional, more sacred, more just big deal, like that this mattered. And when I transitioned out of my high school program, I found very quickly, and when I say quickly, I mean like within a week, that things were very different in terms of the program style of workouts and communications skill sets of what was expected between an athlete and a coach, and even just like teammate camaraderie. It felt very disconnected and disjointed and lonely. And I personally didn't feel like I had a leg up coming from a great program. I personally felt immediate resentfulness because I was upset at how disgusting of a culture it felt like. I felt let down. I felt led on, that I thought we were going to get this leveled up experience as I transitioned into collegiate athletics. And it felt like an immediate downgrade. And I felt resentful, like this, I felt tricked, but also I then maybe, made poor narrative out of it. And I thought, well, I guess this is college. Like, I guess this is college. This is what it's like in college. So I quickly had to make sense of my resentment and anger and like feeling let down with my higher expectation of what I thought things might feel like based on some other friends and families' collegiate experiences that I knew of. And so for me, in order to like move on and survive, I just unpacked it with, well, this is college. I'm an adult now and I got to figure this out on my own. So it really felt like a more like on my own thing, but I programmed my brain to think this is what it's supposed to be like then. You're on your own. And I know from talking to many of my own client athletes and other friends that, went collegiate running, that was not their experience, and it doesn't have to be, but I made sense of it in the way that I needed to like go to practice every day. So it felt like a lot of pressure because I felt like I had to navigate it on my own. And that was not possible as an 18-year-old brain when I was used to like such a supportive culture of encouragement and, really feeling validated and seen in my goals and goal setting and even my challenges for them to work with me creatively rather than kind of like, well, too bad, or not even too bad. It's just, I don't even know where you are.
Right. Yeah. And I think you're exactly right. There's Division I programs out there like yours that aren't doing a good job. And there's Division I programs out there that are doing a job. I mean, a good job. And yeah, I think the expectations in college are different because it is a job. I mean, you are being, and we can debate this back and forth, but Division I athletes are getting their education paid for, and it is a job. I mean, and you do have to show up and perform, but it's super hard to do that in an environment, in a culture where you're not seen, you're not supported, and you're not getting the help and the resources that you need. And that you're right, that is too bad. But it's amazing that you took that experience and you've turned it into a career. So talk to us a little bit about what you and your colleagues are doing with your organization, with your company.
Yeah. So after college, I went to get my master's in counseling art therapy. So I am actually an art therapist registered in Illinois. on top of being a certified mental performance coach. And originally I was strictly just keeping that, title of clinical therapist, clinical art therapist for years, but I still was seeing a lot of athletes for performance anxiety. And so, college athletes, high school athletes, even some youth athletes. And it wasn't until years and years of this where I was like, is there something more I could be doing though? Like, can I make sure I'm doing this correctly? And that's when I went to the Association of Applied Sports Psychology to check out the CMPC, the Certified Mental Performance Consulting certification. And once I was on that route the last 2 years, I hired on 2 other gem of teammates who are not therapists. They, have their CMBCs and one is CMBC candidate. But what we're doing is we're serving as many athletes we can, not only in the Chicagoland area, we work with various high schools, but we also work in a lot of different states, from Texas to Indiana, from Florida to Michigan to Ohio. So with the CMBC, we can cross state lines. We don't have to stay in Illinois. For me, for some of my athletes that are having a little bit more complex things going on, they prefer the therapy piece. So, I see them for therapy and they might see, Matt or Carson on the side for the CMPC work, the, mental performance work. But what we do is it's all virtual, and I did away with the brick and mortar, like, I don't know, 5.5 years ago at this point, or 5 years ago. And the only time we'll go in to really be with a client is when we go to like a high school and we do a team session. Like today we have 2 team sessions with a cross country team. So we're working the guys team and the girls team. So we'll go in and really do it up with, a directive that makes sense with what the coach has requested, or themes that could be helpful for the team to explore. And then I also do something a little bit intriguing. I do run and talks and walk and talks. So walk and talks, some therapists do. Like when I used to have my brick and mortar, like, I'd see some other therapists in the Naperville area walking with their clients time to time. But once really COVID got real weird and, people are itching to get out, I started to notice when I was on my walk and talks, I was running. Like I was doing hills, and my breathing was pretty regulated. And then I was like, well, why don't I offer, like, hello? So I started offering run and talk. So it's really just an agreement that client is going on a run and I'm going on a run at the same time. And we're talking through, this therapy session while exercising the body. And it really is important to recognize that this, in my opinion, and well, not even my opinion, what I've seen is some of the most stubborn depression that I've seen with my client caseload has really been stirred up once we started run and talks or we started walk and talks. And there's a very clear difference with my pool of clients that when they do the run or the walk and talks versus the ones that choose to sit on the video, there's a night and day going on. And so, take the body, leave the mind. The body can shake up the mind and kind of emotionally metabolize what it's stuck to. And we know this through EMDR, eye movement, deep reprocessing, desensitization, which really just fancy words. But what it means is this theory was developed based on a woman just getting really angry at work, really mad about something. And she went on a walk in the woods, frantic, like fury. And she came back, she felt significantly better. And she'd do this over and over and over again. And she started studying it. And all it really showed was that when she was in the woods, her eyes were shifting from left, right movement. And this is the power behind the eye movement of really splitting your body bilaterally so that your amygdala is really bored, that fight or flight. So if the amygdala, what I call annoying Amy, is really bored while you're thinking about something distressing, you can let the body appropriately emotionally metabolize it. So it's not sticking to you like Velcro. And so this is what I see with my walk and talks. This is what I see with my run and talks. And you probably, Anne Marie or Caitlin, see this. Like you'll go on a run with someone else, you'll talk about something annoying, you come back and you're like kind of good.
Oh my God. I mean, absolutely. Like, yeah, the fact that that is an option, we'll have a session doing that is just, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So very unique to Center for Creative Growth, what we're doing over here.
I love it. And then is it MNDR? Is that the right initials?
E as an elephant, M
Okay.
as in mouse, EMD as in dog, and then R as in rat.
And what does it stand for?
Eye movement, deep reprocessing, desensitization. It's like backwards, but
Interesting.
yeah. So I
Okay.
mean, if you want to go down a rabbit hole with that, I mean, you can see the effectiveness of EMDR really quickly is profound. So I am trained in it. I use it with clients, even just like via video where we do some bilateral tapping, what I call butterfly tapping. And again, really when we take the body and we bilaterally split it up, we can really shake up that emotional distress that we're so stuck like Velcro to.
All right, Caitlin, do you have anything? Because I've got a bunch of questions. But I want to get you in here first.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you are using these techniques that like I've never heard of, I mean, it really is a game changer. I know like you don't need to do any convincing when saying that taking a walk or taking a run, like that's I think cross country, that was exactly my therapy for the 4 years of long runs with my friends and talking everything out. But
Yes.
I mean, it really the fact that like I know I sit in front of a screen and like my brain will sometimes just turn off, and being able to get kids outside and like in a different environment and being able to move their body, I mean, it really is so special, and I'm so glad that you're giving that option to kids.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad too. I'm glad clients are up for it. I mean, that's really the biggest challenge is if they just are willing to try it one time. There's a lot of fear around it, and it's goofy if you really think about it, because I'm not even there. I'm not even
Right.
there, and there's some times where we feel judged or insecure about it. I'm not even there. I can't even see what they're doing. I don't know what pace they're going. They could be barely jogging. It really doesn't matter. It's just about changing the environment, shaking up the five senses, which is the fastest way to get back in the moment.
I love that. So what are your thoughts, Danielle, on, I love that. I love the idea of walk, talk therapy or run therapy. I also just think in general, walking and running, being outdoors is therapeutic. I think grounding is therapeutic. I do it first thing in the morning, like barefoot,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what time of year it is. I go outside, I ground.
Yeah.
And I also find benefit in the stillness part, the meditation, the yoga, the breath work. I mean, I am a certified yoga instructor, and
I love that.
I am not a certified breath coach, and there are certified breath coaches out there. And I know people think that's silly, but there's so much connection to that. What about that also? Do you talk to your clients about even that part, about the disconnect, the breath, like Caitlin's saying, all this time in front of a screen, or do you think there's value there?
Oh, absolutely. There's nowhere you're going to go in life where your body is not present. Wherever you go, there you are. And if you're ignoring the number one person you're with the most, which is your body, the entire world will feel confusing to you. If you don't know what the body needs or the body, is communicating, everything around you will feel confusing. I learned this from a Buddhist monk. He came in and did a training, and he talked about that, especially in, the United States culture. We don't even know when we're hungry. We don't even know when we're tired. We don't even know when we need connection or disconnection because we're so much on autopilot. So that is why we're overwhelmed, because we're not paying attention to the number one relationship that you're going to be with the longest in your entire life, which is the relationship with your body, with your mind. That mind-body connection in theory is not going away. And so when we ignore it and we're not honing in on the breath, I mean, the breath, if you ask any of my clients that if you could, right, confidentiality, but the breath is a staple piece of our work because it's the remote control to the nervous system. It's the remote control to shifting the relationship with what the mind is going to stick to, so that breath can help diffuse from getting stuck on assumption, criticism, expectation, judgment, which are the fastest ways to get zapped out of the moment. And so breath work, meditations, visualizations, I even do hypnotherapy. So, this is something that is a cornerstone of my work that clients are like signing up for. Whether or not some clients do it more than others, that is, per client based on their willingness. But we will be investigating, moments of doing that and a lot of challenges on really practicing that muscle memory, increasing the gray matter in their brain on their own outside a session, because it matters. I mean, we know that the more that you meditate, the more you can slow down, notice your heartbeat, notice the rhythm of your breath. We know that those people have more gray matter in their brain, which they are more advanced at going into a relaxation response rather than a stress response. And it's also a safeguard against stressors. So, you get an athlete who's, let's say, peak performing for the first time in a long time, or, now they're junior, or they're sophomore, and they have this like history behind them to compare to now. They feel pressure, and all of a sudden they lose sight of just slowing down and coming back to what they know, doing what they just need to do for the moment instead of living in their mind rent free, instead of living in the moment which is the only thing that exists.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And you do see that is funny, particularly in a sport like cross country, because you can have an athlete come in as a freshman who is oblivious, for lack of a better word, and they're in shape because they came from soccer, lacrosse, whatever it is, right? And they just go out there and they go perform well on these courses. And then, there's no expectation and there's no whatever. But then all of a sudden, at some point, athletes realize, well, wait a minute, I'm actually kind of good at this, or actually I can perform. And then, and this is my love-hate relationship with, all of the apps and Strava and all of the information out there. You can also know what people are running in California or in Texas or in Barrington when we're in Libertyville. I mean, and then there is that social comparison, and then that increases the stress. And I guess the question I am a firm believer that we need a little stress. I don't think you walk onto the cross country line or get on the free throw line and you're like, oh, I'm like super chill. Like, I don't think that's the way you go and perform. I do think that whether you're taking an AP bio class test or you're on the line for a cross country meet, you do need that heart rate to accelerate a little, and you do need that, sweat to start. But then when you go overload on that, that's when things can start to spin out of control. And so what are some like really practical tips that you can give student athletes to help take the temperature down to where it needs to be able to perform optimally?
Yeah, great question. Again, I'm being mindful of time. With that question, we do all have an individual zone of optimal performance. So for some of us that operate on a higher, let's say, state, like trait anxiety, meaning like we might just have a higher vibration of anxiety in general as a human. Those individuals actually need more state anxiety, which you wouldn't think so. So like meaning that when it comes to the moment of the performance, they actually do better vibing a little higher than lower. But what our work does is helps again unpack that narrative and also normalize that we do not need to be worried or fearing or scared of our emotional response. Like feelings are not facts, right?
Correct.
Just because I feel like I'm going to win doesn't mean I am. Just because I feel like I'm not fit enough doesn't mean I'm not. So really like understanding that we can take in the emotional, intel, we can take in the somatic intel, but that's information, and what we choose to give value to is a choice. And so what we talk about is really noticing those cues, but also with performance in general when it comes to getting really good all of a sudden and like doing better and like kind of freaking yourself out. You're doing so well. And then you get to the top and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. And there's something that Taylor Swift just mentioned in her podcast recently. If you guys listen to that, she talked about like, when you go up, in the atmosphere, like, yeah, duh, there's going to be more pressure. So the higher you go, there's obviously more pressure. This is science. This is like, this makes sense. But the reality is with our, philosophy, Matt, my teammate, always loves to say pressure is a privilege, but he's not wrong, because the studies prove, like the statistics are, the more prone you are to choking, means the more talented you are. So this is an ironic idea that athletes have, is they think the better they get, they don't need to see someone like myself or mental performance coaching because they think I'm so good. Why should I be choking? I shouldn't be choking. I shouldn't be crumbling. But it's literally incorrect. The higher you perform, the more prone you are to choking because there's more to lose. If you don't have a lot to lose, why would you feel a lot of pressure? You wouldn't. That's why a lot of athletes, when they interpret, a time trial for a race or, this or that,
Yes.
coaches will play a little trick on them. They do really well because their perception is there's nothing to lose, so they don't feel pressure. But we don't want athletes to literally go in their season blinded because they need to know what they're up against. But it really is are you going to get rid of pressure? No, it's just gravity. So what our work does is we understand what pressure is and that it is energy. We don't need to waste it. But the issue is not pressure. The issue is when it turns into stress. And that is where we choke. So another realistic tip, and this is again, really done well in the book Choke. If you ladies have read that, such a good book. It's actually based by a writer in Chicagoland area. She talks about hand over fist, one of the most effective tools. And I love this because it's simple. You literally take 10 solid minutes and you just emotionally vomit everything that's on your mind about your fears, self-doubts and worries, everything. And after 10 full minutes, you must stop. And then you must end on 5 of your strengths. Anything, just 5 strengths. And what it does is it literally takes that prefrontal cortex and clears the cache. And when we clear the cache of the prefrontal cortex, we're not basically stuck in paralysis. Because what's happening when we're choking is we're overthinking everything. And as you know, a tense runner is not a great runner. I don't care how fit you are. So the kryptonite or the villain to great breath is a mind that's on too much. So the mind that's on too much is turning off the channel of the breath. And that cannot happen, especially with running. We need to deliver oxygen-rich blood.
Yeah, exactly.
To the lactic acid muscles. We need to be relaxed. And the more relaxed runner you will compete against, it's not how fit are they. It's how relaxed are they.
Right. Yeah.
And if we can change that perception of that's what I'm aiming at, that's what I'm aiming towards, then everything else will fall into place.
That's so interesting. It's so interesting because I've not read that book, but I have to tell you, after
one of my
decades
favorites
of marriage, this is very funny because I legitimately, and I have a handful of friends and not even a handful, a smaller number than that, and my husband, and I'll come home and I'll literally verbally vomit. And in the beginning of our marriage, he would go through this well, this is what you need to do, this. And I would be dude, I don't need you to fix anything. I just need you to shut up.
Right.
Let me verbally vomit. And then I'm all right. And then I'm okay, what do you want for dinner? And he's are you kidding me? I'm no, I feel so much better. And he could not wrap his head around it. Now he knows it, but I never knew that there was actually science behind that, but that's what I really need. I just need to be able to spew it out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Because your prefrontal cortex was too full. Yes.
Never knew that. And then the other thing that's so interesting is the whole feelings are not facts. I love that quote. I'm going to steal that from you.
Yep, please
I will give you credit.
Please do.
But one of the things over my coaching career, how are things going? I don't even ask that anymore. The question I asked, what 3 things went well? And I don't want to talk about a feel. And I'm I don't want to talk about your feelings. We can talk about your feelings another time. No one wants to hear about a kid's feelings more than me. But particularly after a race, I don't want to hear about your because I didn't do that well, or I should have passed that kid, or this wasn't my and those are all feelings. But when they talk about, and I say, what are the 3 things that went well? And I would tell you, Danielle, what happens more often than not, by the time they're done, and I did this last night with a kiddo, by the time she was done, I'm how many things did you just tell me? And she's I don't know, how many things? And I'm 7. You told me 7 things that went well. Before I would ask that, they give me this, again, verbal vomit of everything that went wrong. I'm dude, I want to know what went wrong, what you thought went wrong. I want you to tell me physically what went right. So there's actual science to that then too.
Yes. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even just highlighting what went well, hits that dopamine. So, I mean, now you're literally affecting the emotional state of a runner after a performance, which will now inherently shift the way that they compartmentalize that memory. And so that's really important to recognize how we're talking to athletes as coaches, as parents, even as teammates after the event. I mean, even again, how we're talking to ourselves after, how we are reviewing the event. Yeah, it's definitely something that we do not shy away from. And that's really our sweet spot is choking because it's such a real, like neurochemical phenomenon. Like this is really what's happening in the brain. We know this. If you over focus on the way you walk down the stairs, you're going to fall because that's not inherent. That's not natural. Like you know how to walk down the stairs. But again, there's that kind of like decision paralysis. The working memory is overloaded and it's not allowing itself to just go into autopilot. And so that's why like someone like Steph Curry, right? He practices more than anyone I know. But when he's on the line, he's not thinking about how to do the act.
Yeah.
He's letting his body and mind trust that they can go on autopilot. They don't need to overthink the mechanics. And our runners, they know how to run. They do not need to overthink the mechanics because that is what choking is. Like that's the recipe for choking.
Yeah, that's so true. Caitlin, we're going to get cooled down here in a minute, but do you have anything you want to add or ask before we do?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm in such awe right now with what you're saying. I really wish I could go back in time and give high school
Me
kids
too.
a run and walk session a couple of times a week because seriously, like she needed to know the difference between good pressure and unhealthy stress.
Yeah.
But seriously, like there is such a fine line, and that is something that's so hard to understand in high school, that being stressed out can actually work in your favor if you learn how to deal with it healthily, like in a healthy way, which you don't. Like you're not given these techniques just naturally. Learning how to deal with breath and finding different ways to talk about why you're stressed out or if you're succeeding, even though you can still get help if you're succeeding and doing well. And also, I always would ask, I would talk about my friends and I'm like, I'm scared to choke. I'm going to do a race. And they weren't runners. And they're like, Keelan, how are you scared to choke? Like it's running. How do you not know how to get on the race and run? You're like, no, you don't understand. Like it's just the process of realizing that you've been doing it a million times before and that you can do it again. So I'm so glad you're giving those kids that help and the techniques that they need. One question I do have, because I know that you mentioned how you do team sessions where you go and talk to a bigger group. And I was going to ask I really never thought about giving a therapy session to a team. Like what benefits do you see that are different from individual therapy sessions?
So when we go to the school, it's definitely not group therapy. Like we're not coming in and identifying it as therapy because I'm not diagnosing. We're not there to treat something unwell, quote unquote, according to like insurance and like diagnostically. That's definitely not it. So any coach listening or any athlete listening who wants to ask, if their coach could have got us to come in, it's really that mental performance team group session. And so what is different about it is it's literally just a taste. I mean, I could be with the team for 1 hour or 2 hours or 3, but ultimately we're coming in with like cool, fun, attractive, quick go-to like ideas and tips and like concepts that will illuminate the brain to feel powerful or feel hopeful or feel energized and motivated that there can be different. They can do different. However, then we leave. And so we write up, summaries for coaches and we give tips on like, hey, check in this way, like, suggestively ask about these things throughout the season. And then we leave. But the secret sauce in that is like, if someone is finding this is missing from their toolbox, because this is what happened to me in high school. When I say these female coaches were downright inspiring and they saw me so much that they encouraged me to go see a sports performance coach.
Right. Amazing.
I didn't know that's what they were. I did not know his title. I didn't know what he was. I just blindly trusted my coaches because I knew it was rooted in goodness. Like it was rooted in, he can only help you in these parameters at practice. You need more, because I was freaking out before hard workouts. I was freaking out before intense competitions. What I didn't realize is I was having panic attacks. I didn't know what it was. I was terrified of pain. And so what he helped me do was really unpack, how can I create a relaxation response versus a stress response? Everything changed for me. So if I didn't see him individually, I do not believe him coming in one time with my team, which he did work with a lot of teams in the area. I do not think I would have just like magically had all the power. I think it would have given me something to chew on. But the power of the individual work is like, we're there now establishing rapport, accountability, processing, reinvestigating new creative things, tools that will work or aren't working. And so it's kind of that like collaborative check-in that allows any client to feel like, I freaking got this. Like, I got this. I'm working on it. I've nailed it. I can now apply it. And so I know that a lot of our athletes love when we come into the teams, but it doesn't have to end there. It can be for a couple times in the season a check-in. Some of our athletes check in monthly or bi-weekly. Some are weekly. Some are twice a week, for the season. So it's really what your nervous system needs and kind of like where your stressors are at. If your stressors transformed, like where it's not just pressure anymore, it's now stressing you out. It's creating like malfunctioning to your sleep or your relationships on your team or even relationship with yourself. But more importantly, baseline, you're not having fun anymore. If you're not having fun anymore, there's a problem.
Yeah.
This should be fun. And that's what I experienced in college. It wasn't fun. And unfortunately, I felt like a baby, right? I was 18 years old. I thought this is what college is. I needed someone to be like, are you having fun? The answer would have been like, absolutely not. And I would have loved for someone to redirect me to go back to him, the mental performance coach I was working with. I just didn't even consider, I didn't even think to return back to him. And I regret that greatly.
Yeah, that's a great place to end. And I know you need to get on, but that is exactly right. At the end of the day, if you're not having fun, something's not going right. So I think that is absolutely amazing. I cannot tell you how much, Danielle, we appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you.
So many.
Me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I took so much away from this. I can't wait for you to come and talk with our team and just give them a taste of what else could be out there for them so they can explore and put their secret sauce into the recipe that works for them. Because I think you're exactly right. We're all individuals and we all need to figure out our own secret sauce and how it works for us. Yeah.
Agreed.
And coaches can't be all things to their athletes. They're there to do a job and then we need to rely on the experts.
Right. There's a bandwidth any coach has. And like, at a certain point, there's also that boundary where it's like, you need to go home and sleep. You need to go home and be with your family. Like when we over caretake for our athletes, which again is why the wisdom from my two women coaches, they saw that there was a limit to their helping and they figured out someone who could. And that made truly all the difference. I mean, he is essentially why I went into this. It is because of that mental performance coach. Because if I didn't see the work transform my life for myself, I wouldn't even know what this is, if I'm being honest.
Exactly. Yeah. So we are so glad that you are here. Caitlin, again, thanks for being here and hosting us on Peak Train Like a Girl podcast. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. You ladies are too. If you ever need anything or if anyone listening, has any questions even, just give a call, find us on, we got an Instagram now. We're getting there. But just,
and we'll make sure
we
drop all the links into our show notes. So we'll make sure that you know how to get in touch with Danielle and her team. And make sure you guys are sharing the podcast with a female athlete or coach you love because there's so much wisdom in here. And if you guys haven't checked out our app yet, make sure you do that. And we do have a 20% code for you. We'll also drop that in the show notes. Until next time.